right, dude. Futures. Let's talk about them. You want to trade futures? You don't know anything about them. Okay. Um, well, for starters, let's talk about ways you can get into trading futures. Right? You can fund your own futures account, or you can open a prop firm account. Prop firms are all the rage right now. Right? Um, One of the most used accounts is a Top Step account. There's a ton of companies out there. They all have different rules. They all have different fees. They all have different ways of doing things. So you're going to have to kind of go out there and research and pick one that best suits you. But I've used Top Step. They're all right. You know, they're tightening their rules a lot, which can be annoying, but they pay out. Okay, when you get a payout, if you didn't break any rules, they're going to pay you, right? And they pay you fast. I use 50K accounts when I have these. And so, for instance, let's say you are opening a 50K account. You're going to pay a $50 fee, right? And this is a monthly fee until you pass or fail the account. So you're paying $50 to basically paper trade an account to prove that you can make money. You pay your $50. Your goal is to make 3,000. If you make 3,000, you've passed. You are now a funded trader once you pay their funded fee of $150. That's a one-time fee. So you just paid $200 total if it took you 1 month to pass, and you got a funded account, right? If during your evaluation, they call it a combine, but during your evaluation, if you lose $2,000, they close your account, and you need to buy another one if you want to try this again. A 50K account, here's the contract limit. You can trade 5 minis or 50 micro. I'm never really trading more than like four micros, honestly, or 1 mini, but like I honestly don't really touch minis. And so once you're funded, you know, you've passed your combine, you pay the funded fee. They have a couple options, but the one that I always do is if you have 5 days where you made $150 or more, you're now eligible for payouts. And so, like, kind of the best way to handle these, in my opinion, there's honestly so many ways. Some people YOLO these things, right? They trade huge size in hopes that they get some massive payout, and that can work. But if you're doing that, you're going to blow a shitload of accounts. Okay, just know that you're gonna blow so many accounts. If you do it the what I call the right way, where you're sizing properly, you're actually taking good trades, using good risk management. You know, it's going to take you a while to probably pass and probably to hit payout, but that's how you last in doing this, right? So what I do a lot of the time, if I'm in a funded account, is I'll get it up to about $3,000 of profit, and then you can withdraw half. So I'll take out 1,500, and then I'll keep trading it. And that's usually where I start taking payouts, because you want to leave a buffer. You know, you don't want to take out too much money, and now you just lose a little bit, and you blow your account, right? So you always kind of want to leave a little bit of buffer in there. But dude, you know, if you've bought 50 freaking accounts and you finally are live and you finally hit payout, just take a payout, man. Do it for your sanity, for crying out loud, okay? So if you don't want to go the prop firm route and you want to fund your own personal futures account, there's a few ways you can do that, right? You can go with a full service, expensive ass, high margin broker like Charles Schwab, right? So if I want to trade one mini contract, and I'll go over mini and micro in a minute. If you want to trade one mini contract of the S&P 500, you need $30,000 in your account to do that, to just trade one. And then the micro end of that, you would need $3,000 in your account. And I know a lot of people can't do that as if they're starting out, right? So what's the other option for a personal funded account that's less expensive? You could do something that's not a full service broker, right? Like Tradevate, which is the same thing as NinjaTrader. To trade one ES mini contract, remember you needed $30,000 with Schwab, $500. You can trade one. Okay. You shouldn't be really trading minis if you're new, by the way. You should be trading micros. We'll get into that. And so you see day and initial, right? If you're day trading, this is what you need. If you're going to hold overnight, and just so you know, overnight in futures is considered from 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's you need this amount to hold through that hour where futures are closed. You can, what I'm doing all the time is I'm opening a trade throughout the day, closing it at market close at stock market close at like 4 o'clock. And then once futures open again at 6, I'll start looking for a new position. So I would only ever need $500 to trade one ES. If you want to trade a micro, bro, $50 gets you starting to trade futures, the S&P 500 futures. Okay. Maybe another popular one would be gold. Gold micro, $200 gets you one gold micro. Gold mini. Oh, sorry, I don't need to do the slash in here. $2,000. Right? Which, let's see what it was in Schwab. Probably crazy, dude. Probably crazy. You need $40,000 to trade one gold mini contract. Okay? So if you're starting out, this is a great option. Okay, it's not a bad platform. They're pretty decent, honestly. I like them. And you can, if you just type in this trade of 8 margin, you can look up the margin requirements for anything you could possibly want to trade. Okay. And so now let's talk about tick value, which is the other thing you're going to need to know. So a tick is the smallest possible movement in futures. Okay. For instance, if I look at ES, the smallest possible movement on ES is 25 cents. You see this goes up in 25-cent increments, all right? To go from, you go from 74.29 to 74.29.25. That's one tick, okay? And a point is to go from a whole number to a whole number, right? 74.29 to 74.30. How many ticks are in a point? Well, for on ES, it's 4. Okay. And we can go over that. I made a little handy dandy spreadsheet, right? So let's say you are going to trade the S&P 500. Here's your index, your commodity right here. And that's micro versus mini, right? Micro is what you should be trading. Mini, you really shouldn't be trading. This is for once you get really, really good and or have a ton of money, right? So micros, this is where you're going to live and die. So MES is the micro for the S&P 500. A tick value is $1.25 per tick. As I just showed you, there's 4 ticks in a point, right? To go from whole number to whole number. So that means a whole point on an S&P 500 micro is $5, right? Let's compare that to the mini for the big boy contract, which would be ES. Tick value, 10 times, it's $12.50 per tick. There's still four ticks per point, right? So a whole point is $50. And so then what I did is I took the ATR, the daily average range for ES. It's currently 79. So that means in a given day, on average, it will move 79 points. Okay? Let's say you caught a whole ATR. You didn't. You won't, but say you did. Okay? On a micro, you made $395. On a mini, you made $3,900. Okay? Let's carry that logic down. MNQ, which is the NASDAQ. 50 cents per tick. 4 ticks per point. $2 per point. 10 times is the mini amount, right? Here's the ATR, the daily average movement that the NASDAQ 100 will make in points. Let's say you caught the whole thing on a micro. There you go. You're looking at almost $1,000. You caught the whole thing on a mini. You're looking at almost 10 grand. Follow that logic down, right? The Dow. A micro, almost 300. A mini, almost 3 grand. And gold, popular, right? I love trading gold. ATR, about 100 points. Catch the whole thing, $1,000 on a micro. on a mini, $10,000, right? So you can see how you can get pretty crazy with the amount of money that you can make or lose, right? Trading futures. So, what are the other popular ones? Crude, mini, almost 6 grand. Silver, dude, you really shouldn't. If you're trading silver, God love you. It'll make you sweat. I'll tell you right now. $21,000 for ATR and silver. Oh, yikes, dude. Then, for you Forex folks, you can still trade pairs in futures. Okay, there's futures contracts for pairs. There's micros and there's minis, just like with everything else. So Euro USD, the ATR honestly didn't even register. It's so small, but I kind of pulled what I think ATR is: $50 on a micro, 500 on a mini. Same thing for the GBP USD, 60 on a micro, 600 on a mini. I'll happily send anyone the spreadsheet. I mean, it's super simple to set up. But this tells you what moves are worth, right? So like, let's go on ES just for giggles. All right, let's say we're trading here. Let's say we caught this move. We exited, we exited probably right here. Oop, I got my snap on, which is annoying, but we don't need it. So let's say I entered here and I exited about here. 27 points, right? This is ES. So this is a mini. All right. So 27 and a quarter. Let's go on over here. Boom. 27 and a quarter. Let's see how much we made. If we got that move. $1,300 on a mini. Right? If it was a micro, what would it be? $136, right? Not bad. I hope this is helpful. If I missed something, please let me know. But at least this will get you started. All right? Thanks so much.